Hey everybody, Fun Rich here with the 25 greatest bands from the UK. Probably mostly England. I wanted to include this band here, but they just didn't quite make it. So Crass is 26. Now I kind of got stuck in the old fart vein. Most of these bands are from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There are good bands. The Temples, man, this is a fantastic debut. Their second album I didn't like at all, and I haven't heard anything after that, so there's no way I can include them as being one of the greatest all time, but I thought I would mention it. Number 25 is a band that I have mostly 12-inch singles and CDs. But this is the first album I bought of theirs on vinyl. And all the albums after this I bought on CD. I bought I have lots of their 12-inch singles. Well, I say lots, I mean quite a few. But I think this is their first. No, Black Celebration came out before this one. I think Black Celebration is their first great album. I think this is their second great album, and they made a few after this. But I have Depeche Mode as the 25th greatest band from the UK. Number 24 is The Faces. Now this is the US copy. And in the US copy, they put Small Faces because I thought the public's more familiar with that name. For sales purposes, they didn't think they put just Faces it would sell. But whatever, that's their first album. This is their third, this is their best by far. A Nod's As Good As a Wink, To a Blind Horse. This fantastic band. One of my favorite bands from the early 70s. I think Rod Stewart in the late 60s when he was with the Jeff Beck group and then with Faces. He was fantastic. And this is their last studio album. It's Ooh La La. It's not as good as Not As Good As a Wink, but it does have some great songs on it. And finally, I'm going to show this Record Store Day record I got. Faces Had Me a Real Good Time at the BBC, in sessions and in concert 71 and 73. Norman Maslow sent this to me. Fantastic. Their BBC sessions are pretty good. Number 23, we got the Pogues. Now, I'm not one to say, oh, this band's important, and I hardly ever say that, but they kind of mixed Irish traditional music and rock and roll or punk together and got a mishmash, and it's really great stuff. Their second album, what is it? Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash, the one produced by Elvis Costello. And I believe this is their third full length. If I Should Fall from Grace with God. This one was the first one that got any radio play in the US on K-Rock. And that was Fairy Tale of New York. And I don't think the ones after this got any radio airplay either. Now, at 22, I know some prog heads are going to say this band should definitely be, closer to 1 than closer to 25. But at 22, I have Yes. Now, I saw Yes in 73. Fantastic concert, except for Rick Wakeman. He kind of ruined it. He had this air about him, like he took it so serious and that, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. But this is their debut. In the UK, this is the cover, just this. But I think this is the US cover. And this is their second album, Time and a Word. This is getting a little more proggy. No opportunity necessary, no experience needed. I really like these early Yes albums. And then this one here is my favorite Yes album. And this one kind of pointed in the direction they were going to kind of go. This is my favorite by them. I purged all my other ones. I purged Fragile. I think Fragile has like 4 great songs and a bunch of stuff in between. Close to the Edge was a favorite of mine, but I'm not going to listen to it anymore, so I purged it. Anyways, that was 22. 21, it's a favorite band of mine. And if I pick my favorites, this band would probably be closer to 1. But anyways, it's Traffic with Mr. Fantasy. This is the US version. The cover, I don't know, the cover of the UK one's better, but I think the song, the track listing on the US is better. It includes a couple of like Colored Rain and Paper Sun, or no, Hole in My Shoe and Paper Sun. A couple of songs that were singles that weren't included on the English. This is their second album. By this time they were having some issues. But yeah, this I don't like this one as much as the first. Some people think it's better. Probably the most famous song is Feeling Alright. Oh, and it comes with a booklet. And then I got this one here, Last Exit. It's a good album. It's one side is live. Yeah, side 1 is studio stuff. Medicated Goo, I remember that song being played on the radio, single. And then side 2 was live. And I think they released this just to fulfill an obligation because the band was splintering. And then I got this version. They both have the same back. The front cover is different. This is, I think, a UK version. And then I got this bootleg, and it's with Steve Winwood, Jim Capaldi, and Chris Wood. They were actually a 3-piece in this concert. This is a bootleg, but it's very well recorded. Then in the 70s, they went a little more of a kind of like a jam bandy. And this is a great album, Low Spark of the High Heel Boys, with that famous Cut album cover. A different lineup, some different members. And then this is the second one that came out. And this one was Shootout at the Fantasy Factory or something like that. Number 20, another band that's a favorite of mine. And it's Public Image. PIL. This is their first album called First Issue. Just fantastic stuff. Their second album was a tin box with, I think, 3 records in there. And I don't play this. I play the US double album version. And then I got this bootleg, Live at the Factory. And this was the first time they played some of these songs off of here in concert. Let's put them all over here. And then finally one more by Peel. This is the latest one I have. They have he did just release an album, I think last year. And but I haven't picked that one up. It's a double 45 RPM. I don't know. I have all their other albums, so something tells me I should get it, the completist. But I'm not a completist, so I don't know if I'll get it. Number 19. Fantastic band that came around in the mid-'80s, late 80s. And it's Spaceman 3, Sound of Confusion. This is their first album. Just fantastic. Very flimsy sleeves on this. Just fantastic stuff. A lot of distortion. The guitars on it are just fantastic. Really psychedelic distortion. This is a bootleg, apparently. I thought this was a legitimate... And I think they did release this after. But this is, I think, a bootleg version. It's Taking Drugs to Make Music to Take Drugs to. Live stuff, I believe, or demos. I need to get their second album. It's... Age of Confusion, I think. This is Playing with Fire. This one probably came out in the 90s. No, 88. Looks like, I don't know. Doesn't matter, does it? This one's a little more, not as wild, not as crazy. And then finally, I have a 12-inch here, Spaceman 3, Hypnotized. That's pretty cool. I dig that band. Okay, number 18 is a band that I really dig their early albums. I didn't buy them. The first record I bought by them was a 12-inch single. And this is a band that was, kind of a cult following. By the late 80s, they blew up. They were playing the Rose Bowl. But I think this is the first album I bought by them. And it's Japanese Whispers, I think. And I bought this because it has a Let's Go to Bed. That was one of the first songs I heard by them that oh wow, I dig that. Now, one that preceded that was The Forest. But I didn't really hear about that song until this album. This Greatest Hits, the singles, I guess I should say, the Cure. And it has pictures of all the singles. And yeah, The Forest blew me away, man. So yeah, those first 4, studio albums by The Cure, I need to get, but I don't have them. This one here, when they started blowing up, The Head and the Door by The Cure. It's got In Between Days, Close to Me. And I think there's another single on here. And then this one here, they were blown up by this time. And this is Kiss, 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 Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me by The Cure, double album. Number 17, fantastic album. When they first came to England, they were from Scotland. This punk band called the Jesus and Mary Chain. Their first gigs were like riots. They were just chaotic. And these guys are just fuzzed out guitars set to Beach Boy melodies. It's fantastic stuff. And they cover some Beach Boy songs. This is a B-Sides and Moors. And this got some really cool stuff on it, man. Psycho Candy, Sidewalkin', Kill Surf City. They got Surfing USA on here. Just fantastic stuff. And this is the Jesus and Mary Chain, Some Candy Talkin' EP. And finally, we got the Jesus and Mary Chain, the Pill Sessions. Man, the Pill Sessions and the BBC sessions. Now, whenever I see them, I get them, man. Back in the day, I avoided that stuff, Number 16. It's a band I saw live in 71. And it's T-Rex. This is the last album as Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Then this is the album that was out when I saw them. T-Rex. Bang a Gong on here. Mambo Sun. Lean Woman Blues. Jeepster. No, Monolith. That's a good one. Life's a Gas. Ripoff. It's got some great songs, but then it's got some wanky, kind of mellowy ones. And then finally, I'll show this one. This is a good later one. Dandy and the Underground. Very good album. And this is a reissue one of those specialty mid-price records. I think came out in the 80s. Number 15. Now this band, they're most known for their guitar players, but they were a good band, man. And it's the Yardbirds. This is For Your Love. And I believe For Your Love was the last song that Eric Clapton ever played guitar on. He thought they were going too commercial. He wanted to stay in the blues vein. And it's kind of ironic, He left them because they went too commercial. And then by the early 70s, man, Clapton was playing some pretty commercial shit, But yeah, this is a good album, man. Then we got this one here with Jeff Beck, Over, Under, Sideways, Down. This is fantastic. In stereo. Everybody goes, oh, too bad it's not mono. I like stereo, man. And then we got this one, Yardbirds, Little Games. And I think Jimmy Page is on this one. So you got Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. This is the first one. This is the one I bought in the late 70s, early 80s. And pretty much this is all I needed. I bought those other ones, more recently. But yeah, this is a fantastic comp. And I'm sure they have other comps. But... Number 14. We're getting there. The Who. Happy Jack. This might be my favorite album by them. I like this one, and then The Who, Sell Out. Their first album has some great songs, but then some of the covers are... The Who, Live at Leeds. This is not a gatefold. This is like a repress on MCA Records. Fantastic. I bought a CD with a complete concert, but I never play it, man. I kind of like... This is what I was used to, and this is kind of what I prefer. I had Tommy. I bought Tommy I don't know, 69, 70. It had the gold record sticker on it, so it wasn't a first press, but it was an old press. But I purged it. Tommy has some great music, but it's got some others that are kind of filler just to tell this stupid story. And this, I picked this up in the 80s, and I kept it. The best from Tommy, The Who. And it's like, some of the better, some of the songs from Tommy put on one album. And it's pretty interesting. And then finally, by The Who, we got this, The Who at the Monterey Pop Festival. This is a fantastic set. I just picked up another album with this kind of graphic design of a band at the Monterey Pop Festival. That'll be in my next vinyl finds, which will probably be in a couple of days. 13. Their first album is said to have ushered in prog rock. I don't have their first album. This is their second, though. And the Wake Poseidon, is it, or something like that? Pretty cool cover. The gatefold, not so much. But yeah, this is fantastic. I prefer this over the first album. And then we got Lizard. I think I prefer this over the other two, Another pretty cool cover, but gatefold, nah, not so much. And then this is their fourth album. And I saw this band in 71, and they were touring this one, and it's Islands. I like this album a lot. And then I'm going to show one more by them. Red. This is one of their best albums. And whatever year this came out, 74, I had this as the number one album from 1974. I did a series of the best 10 albums from, I did 65 all the way through 86, I think. Okay, the 12th greatest UK band. And I'm going to go with the Kinks. Live Kinks. This is actually a really good sounding record. Norman Maslow sent this one my way. Very cool of him. But yeah, this is actually a really good album. It sounds good. This is one that I've had. I'm leaving it in here because the cover is pretty ratty. But it's the Kinks, Kingdom. A Well-Respected Man is probably the most well-known song on here. But yeah, this is a very good album. Another one of my favorites by them is A Sunny Afternoon, Face to Face, the Kinks. Really good songwriting by this time. And then the albums, they went on a series of albums after this. It's just, they're fantastic. Late 60s albums. I don't have any on vinyl. I do have this one, though. This is the Lost Great Album or something like that. I don't even know what it's called. I guess it's called the Lost Great Album by the Kinks. And this, I got this from the Coleman collection. And the next one I got was also part of the Coleman collection. It's the Kinks, Give the People What They Want. This is like 79, 80. They kind of got revitalized. Number 11, a band that only came out with 3 studio albums, and they came out with a 4th. But this is their first album, Fresh Cream. Just fantastic stuff. Just some really good music on here. Toad, the drum solo I could do without, but probably their best album is their second, Disraeli Gears. This is fantastic. Both sides start out so great. And the second song on side 1 has one of the best songs from the 60s, Sunshine of Your Love. Very cool, psychedelic cover. And then this is their third album. The first record is studio. The second record is live. I don't listen to the live album anymore. The studio album is really good. I like it almost as much as Disraeli Gears. And then after that, they came out with Goodbye Cream, which they just put a bunch of stuff together, you know, because they were broken up. Now we're in the top 10. And I think the 10th greatest UK band is Joy Division. And I'm going to start with this 12-inch single, Love Will Tear Us Apart. I think this came out in June of 1980. And then in July of 1980, they released their second album, Closer. Or Closer is how I used to say it. Joy Division. I got a couple more here. I got some BBC recordings. Radio Transmissions is what this is titled. And then we got, let's do Joy Division Substance. This is 1977 and 1980. This has Warsaw songs on it before they changed their name to Joy Division. This came out like I think in 1988. And then this is another comp. And this one is Steel. And this one has some, I think some studio stuff and live stuff. Number 9. Greatest UK band. And I'm going to go with The Clash. This is their debut. This is a US copy. It's a promo. It's a white label promo. It's a little bit of different songs than the UK one. I have the UK one too. This is their second album, Give 'Em Enough Rope. This album is probably my least favorite Clash album. It's got some great songs. London Calling, maybe their album that's most well known, other than that, the one by the railroad tracks. And then their fourth album, Sandinista. I love this album too. I used to say, man, they should have made this like a double album, like London Calling. It would have been great. I can see where they could do that, but there's not enough bad songs. I mean, me getting used to it and playing it more and more. I think there's only like 4 songs that I think are terrible, and they are bad. So that's not even a full side. So I don't know what songs I would get rid of, you know. Okay, number 8. I don't need this list. We got Pink Floyd with their debut. Man, this is a flimsy cover. This is a first pressed from Israel. And I think the record is actually the same as what a third press from the UK would be. But this is a fantastic album. Pink Floyd's debut, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Anybody that's into psychedelic 60s rock knows that album. This is their second, A Saucer Full of Secrets. I don't have an original of this one. I do have a couple of reissues, and I think they're both the same thing. I don't know why I got two. I think this one's almost as good as the first. I really love this album. After that, they kind of went, nah. But they made this one here in metal. This is one of their best albums. Really great shot of the band. And I'm going to show one more. The one that blew up. This is one of those 2016, 2017 or so reissues, and they're fantastic. 2016, this one. Don't let anybody scare you away from these. I mean, there's some snobs that say, oh, the first presses sound bad. Good luck finding a first press that isn't all scratchy and pops and clicks. This is as good as you're going to get, I think. All right. So we're down to the last 7. I'll try to run through this. The 7th greatest band from the UK. We got the Sex Pistols. And that's quite a feat considering they only officially had one album before they broke up. This is their debut. Never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. Fantastic band. Fantastic, iconic album cover. Just the mini album. This is stuff that I think was recorded before that Sex Pistols, but it was never released. Some of the same songs. And then we got this single record version of The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. The Great Rock and Roll Swindle is normally a double album. This is a single album, and they pull some of the songs off of that one. It has the 3 Sid Vicious songs, so I thought I'll just get this one. Okay, number 6. We'll go a little different vein. This is Judas Priest. This is the best of Judas Priest. And it's actually songs from their first few albums. Rockola's on here. Rockarola. Diamonds and Rust. Deceiver, The Ripper. Just great stuff. I don't have any of those early ones on album. I have them all on CD, but this is the earliest one I have on vinyl. And this is Hell Bent for Leather. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic album. You got British Steel, which I think is this is probably my favorite album by them. Every song is just great. And this sound of this album is kind of what people refer to as heavy metal now. That's what this is. This is a great album too. I saw them on this tour right after the Screaming for Vengeance. This is a great album. It does have a wanker kind of slow song on each side. Maybe Take These Chains and Fever. And then this one here, great artwork. I thought I would show these two together. What is this one called? Destroyer? Defenders of the Faith. Some people like this one more than Screaming. Number 5. Greatest UK band. I'm going to go with Black Sabbath. Now, I recently showed this album. And I recently showed this album on a video I did. The best and worst album covers. And I said, this is one of the best album covers. Their first album. And this is one of the worst album covers. Their second album. Both great albums, but man, that cover, what were they thinking? Anyways, Black Sabbath, if I didn't say. Their debut, and then Paranoid. And then I have the Paranoid box set. And it also came with this. Paranoid Black Sabbath quad in stereo. So it's a different mix. For me, I'm not the type to like compare, oh, that's a little bit different. I don't know what the differences are. I'm sure they both sound fine. And then that box set also came with this album. Triple album, I think, yeah. It's live at the Montreux, Brussels, 1970. Very cool. Very cool live album. Okay, the fourth greatest band is the mighty Led Zeppelin. This is their debut, came out in 69. Their second album came out in 69. Just, it was a turning point. It showed a turning point in music. Music's getting a little heavier. I say that. The early 70s was also the dawn of the singer-songwriter, you know, so. But a great debut, man. This is Physical Graffiti, their double album. Fantastic album. I think it has one, maybe two songs that are so-so, but other than that, it's just great. And then we got this one, Presence. This is a promotional copy. I went to a store once and I got a bunch of, like 4 or 5 promotional copies. I think one of the Faces albums that I showed was Ooh La La. I bought it at the same exact time. This is a great album. Really good guitar solos on this one. Number 3, the third greatest band from the UK. And I'm going with the Smiths. This is their debut. Just fantastic music. Has the giant hit on here. What difference does it make? But yeah, the Smiths, kind of like REM, kind of stood out in the US. They were that indie sound. In the UK, the Smiths stood out like a sore thumb. There was a lot of synth bands going on in the 80s. Really well produced, real polished albums. And these guys stood out. I think they came out with 4 studio albums and 3 compilations while they were still together. And their 3 compilations, could be their 3 best albums. They're fantastic. This is the first, Hatful of Hollow. It's got some great songs on it. It's got What Difference Does It Make? But it also has How Soon Is Now, which I don't believe was on any of their studio albums. Another comp is this one here, Louder Than Bombs. This was the US one. And then this one, I believe, was a UK album, The World Won't Listen. It's got some songs that are the same, I believe. But yeah, great. And finally, I'm going to show one more. This is a bootleg. I have several bootlegs by the Smiths, some live, some studio. But this is a double album. And it's a fantastic sounding record. It's got alternate takes. It's got instrumental versions of songs. It's just fantastic. Number 2, the second greatest band from England. We're going to go with the Rolling Stones, man. This is Between the Buttons. Fantastic album. It's got one wanker on each side, and I think it's the last song on each side. But other than that, it's fantastic. Fantastic Psych album. Their Satanic Majesty's Request. I think this is a fantastic album. It's also the last song on each side is kind of, but Sing This All Together, the last song on side 1, I kind of dig that. On With the Show, the last song on side 2, they could have done without that. They had so many other songs that would have fit on here better, and they would have included some of those, man. This would have been possibly the best psychedelic album ever. After that, they released this, Beggar's Banquet. I think it's their best album. Very cool gatefold. And I thought I would show one from the 80s, the 70s. Some Girls. This album blew up. This was a big seller. And it's a good album. The number 1 greatest band from the UK. Hermits. Now we got the Beatles. This is a bootleg, the Decca tapes. This album is really cool. I wish they would have released an official version of this. Because this record I have it's got some noise issues, but I'm going to hold on to it. Now, I recently made that video about bad album covers, and I picked this Beatles one as a bad album cover, and I explained why. George Harrison's penis. But I also said that the Beatles, though they had some great album covers, they had some really bad ones. And then in the comments, when I said this was a bad album cover, someone who I'm assuming is from England, he said, the Beatles didn't make that cover, you Yanks did, you know, or you Americans did. And he's right. And when I started thinking about it, yeah, all those bad album covers that I'm thinking about, it's all the US ones. You got this one here, the Beatles' second album. It's just like a hodgepodge of photos with this text, too much text with songs. It's just not a good album cover from a graphic design standpoint. And I would say the same thing with this, something new. If they would have just had this picture and maybe this there, and you don't need to have all the songs on the front cover. Now, the Americans did get it right with this one, though. Meet the Beatles. Fantastic album. And I like this better than the UK first two, because they took some from both, I think. But the way side one starts off with I Want to Hold Your Hand, then goes straight into I Saw Her Standing There. It's just fantastic. And side two, starting with the George song, Don't Bother Me, just great. Anyways, that's my 25. I know this list is got giant holes. I know there's James Griffiths is going, where's Queen? I'm not a fan of Queen. Paul Weller and any of his bands, including the Jam, they're not included. And I had a hard time not including this or any of those 82, UK 82 bands. And the one I was planning on including was GBH, but 25, you can only show 25. So anyways, take care, everybody. Take care. Nothing witty to say today.